Hey there, gang. I'm Danny J.
I'm Joel N.
I'm Trevor D.
I'm Joe Vasky.
And together, we are...
Keep On Tolkien.
Woo!
And
Yes.
as you may have guessed by the awesome merch we are sporting right now, we got to go see The War of the Rohirrim.
Oh, yes, friends, and that's what we're actually going to be talking about today, believe it or not. That's why we're here in the special video format.
Yeah, apparently this is supposed to be a popcorn bucket.
Yeah, it is only technically functional as a popcorn bucket.
Yeah, I wouldn't put liquids in that.
No.
It's pretty
But
fun,
it's
though.
pretty cool. Joe, did you hold up the pint thing?
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
really cool,
The
too.
pint-
Stein
cool.
or the mug.
Yeah, it's big.
Yeah.
For the holiday special we just recently did, we were drinking out of those, and they're big.
Very
Fantastic.
celebratory.
Yeah, I've been bonking people over the head with this all day.
All day.
I wish it was the popcorn bucket was bigger.
Me too.
Like I eat 3
Too much.
times that amount of
Oh.
popcorn.
Right,
that
I'll eat that in a few
Oh, yeah.
handfuls.
100%.
But it would hold just the right amount of M&Ms or Reese's
Yeah,
Pieces.
a
That's
whole
true.
shitload of M&Ms, yeah. All right. Well, yeah, we had a pretty good experience at the movie theater. We're going to do a little brief, like a little vibe check of how we feel just initially here.
Yeah, initial impressions. Let's
Yeah.
start down here with you, Danny.
So I'm going to be honest with you guys.
War of the Rohirrim.
War of the Rohirrim. Fucking loved it, you guys. See, you were worried, right? You thought I was going to hate on it. No, I really loved it. I'm not an anime person. I was delighted by this film. Thought it was really good. Can't wait to talk about it more.
Yeah, I went into it. Initially, I found myself getting very excited for this movie, just realizing it was a single movie, not something that was being stretched out over 3 that didn't need to be.
Oh my god, right?
That was
And
nice.
I was very excited to see an anime in the universe, and I was not disappointed.
Personally, I thought it was pretty cool. Like I do with most things I'm excited for, completely avoided all trailers and screenshots and everything that I could. So I kind of only half knew what it looked like going in, and very impressed. Yeah, I thought it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I really liked it. It was a little weird for me because I feel like as an anime lover, I feel like it wouldn't be one of my favorite anime movies. But as a Lord of the Ring lover, I enjoyed it a lot more than like the Hobbit movies and a lot of Rings of Power as well.
Sure. Yeah. Well, actually, now that we mention it, Joe over there he's gonna give us some information on the film. Like we
let's
said,
run down some general stats.
some
and
general
things,
stats.
general
Yeah,
information.
anime film. New for the fucking Legendarium, right, guys?
Yeah, and
Actually, didn't it start with animated films?
Oh, anime.
But anime.
Oh,
in
you're right. I'm
particular.
sorry. Excuse me.
Yes,
I'm
yes,
sorry.
it's a
Anime.
big difference.
Joe just gets up and leaves. Fuck this.
Gonna piss a lot of people off, man.
Yeah, I was kind of excited because the director of it was Kenji Kamayama, but he's like a really experienced anime director. So I was excited about that they got like a legitimate anime filmmaker.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
a legit anime studio, right? Like,
Yeah, and he directed like this TV series called Eden of the East, which I really liked. He directed a bunch of episodes of Ghost in the Shell standalone complex. He most recently did Blade Runner Black Lotus. So, and I like Ghost in the Shell is really good. Yeah, Eden of the East is good. So I was excited that they got an experienced guy to make it.
Hell
And it
yeah.
had a lot of great anime moments, I thought.
it did.
It felt like it had a lot of good anime moments without being too anime. Like it fit.
It wasn't like somebody wielding a sword, bigger than their own body or anything like that. But I mean, at the one point there was like somebody, I think Hera feeds like an oversized cooked chicken leg to an oversized eagle. Like that was kind of anime.
Right.
That was kind of funny.
Well, and just
Yeah.
Helm Hammerhand is such an anime
Anime character.
Yeah, he's a
character. Like
beast.
he's so larger than life, which is what like anime I think thrives at.
It was kind of like when I heard about this movie. So this is kind of my stages of hearing about this movie. They're like, "Did you hear they're making a Lord of the Rings anime?" I go, "Huh, really?" And then and then I'm like, "What's it about?" And they go, "Helm Hammerhand." And I go, "Oh, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Oh,
Of
that
course.
works. That works.
sure."
Well, and it was what? It was just over 2 hours long, right? 2 hours.
Just a
15,
little bit over,
I think.
Yeah.
Somewhere close
Just
to
a
that.
hair over. Yep.
And Danny and I talked about how there's definitely not as much humor in it as an average anime, I feel like. Like, they definitely cut back on that aspect of
Yeah.
it.
Which is something that, honestly, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I'm going to get hate for this, is something that puts me off about anime. The humor is just real weird for me. I
love it.
Not for everybody, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. But and it didn't have that, which I enjoyed. Cool.
Yeah, it stayed away from a lot of the things they use in animation and anime typically to show you like an exaggerated emotion or something. Like there weren't any like anger marks on people's faces or their eyes changing to a weird shape.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Like,
Yeah,
like they didn't over animate it. They kept all the characters and the scenes and everything generally
very serious, very grounded.
very serious and as is.
I kind of feel like if you're a Lord of the Ring lover, you might appreciate this more than if you're an anime lover who doesn't really care about Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I would agree.
So, but I think that's why like you guys all really liked it, and I really liked it for the Lord of the Rings aspect the most.
Yeah, well, in the tradition of Tolkien adaptations, great score, right?
Fantastic. It was very Howard Shore-esque, but it wasn't. I think they credited him for some of the samplings because I mean they reused the Rohirrim theme, obviously.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But who was it that did the score this time around?
Stephen Gallagher, and he was
Much
the
respect.
music editor on the Hobbit movies.
Now
Gotcha.
is that Noel and Liam from Oasis's brother, right?
His lesser known brother.
The lesser brother.
Okay.
There was something it was really cool hearing like the theme again in theaters, and like that was really cool.
That was something that
So,
I haven't
yeah.
heard in a while.
They did a few times throughout the movies kind of hit you with that sort of nostalgia stick, but they didn't beat you over the head with it.
It wasn't
which
too
was nice.
bad.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't as heavy-handed as
The Hobbit.
The
the
Hobbit.
other things. Yeah, I wasn't going to name names, but the Hobbit and Rop, right?
Well, yeah, and Rings of Power,
Yeah.
very much so.
This is kind of unfortunate, but so far it is looking like a big box office failure.
Which makes me really sad.
Me too.
It had a $30 million budget. North America, it had a $4.6 million opening weekend,
Ooh.
and it's grossed $10.6 million worldwide.
That's a bummer. I hope it becomes like a cult classic because it's really good. And I mean, I think the some of the scores represent that, like the audience scores.
Right. Yeah. Well, 50% on Rotten Tomatoes, but audience score 84. Yeah, like
That's a pretty big difference.
that's a big disparity.
Mhm.
That's something you see in horror all the time, right, Joe?
Yeah.
Critics are like, I didn't like this slasher film, and then
Well,
90% of people were like, that movie ruled. You know?
I think too, I think it was refreshing for a lot of people because I do think it's better overall than like Rings of Power and the Hobbit movies. So I think it was kind of like a breath of fresh air to be like, oh, we got something that's like consistently
right.
like solid.
That's what I was most
Mhm.
excited for. Something that was in the universe that was actually solid and not so just ridiculous like the Rings of Power can be and like the Hobbit is.
Right. This one, it's a good one, and I think it fits really well into the Legendarium. I really hope they make more anime.
I think this movie might just need time. So I think a lot of people were pretty skeptical about what a Lord of the Rings anime was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And like we've had things like Rings of Power, so we're kind of like, I don't know, we have certain expectations going into it, but it has all holiday season to bring those numbers back up and get the word of mouth out
That's
there.
true, and really, honestly, the game is all about streaming these days. So like once it hits streaming, we'll see how ultimately popular it'll be, right?
Yeah, we might have another cult hit.
You never know.
I sure hope so.
I hope so, yeah, and hopefully it makes it to some of I know there's like anime streaming services, right, that you guys use.
Yeah, like Crunchyroll.
Yeah, like
Yeah, I'm on
Crunchyroll.
Crunchyroll on the
They're on
daily.
everything now, though. Anime is
Crunchyroll.
really
Yeah, and
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
a lot of anime.
There
on
is a shitload of
Hulu.
anime on everything. yeah.
It's definitely taken over Netflix too.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's anime everywhere now.
Hell yeah.
Oh, one funny thing you wanted to touch on was the previews for this movie.
Oh
yes.
yes, it's
So-
more a statement of how the world is these days.
Yeah,
right?
it was just kind of, I thought it was funny. So I took some notes while I was sitting down and watching it. And the very first note that I took was how funny it was that we were sitting down to see an animated version of what is normally a live action film. And 4 of the previews were for live action versions of anime films or games.
Or animated films, rather.
Animated. Yeah, excuse me, animated. So like live action Lilo and Stitch, live action Sonic 3, live action How to Train Your Dragon, unnecessary. And the most unnecessary, a live action Minecraft movie.
What the fuck? Yeah.
Anyway, I just thought it was kind of a funny, like, there was a theme here when they paired all these together.
Yeah, I thought it was funny, and I had some gummies or whatever, and I started thinking, like, I had the same thought as Joel. We weren't even sitting by each other, and we're having the same thought, and I was like, and then I had this like realization. I was like, but we're doing the opposite, man. We're watching an anime of something that's usually real, man.
Mind blow.
Well, it made me wonder too, like, if War of the Rohirrim was super successful, would they make a live action remake
Adapt
of it?
it into a yeah.
So.
Maybe. That'd be pretty cool.
Speaking of just the anime, and how about animation in general? How do you guys feel about the general like animation of the whole thing? Like, I know it's anime, but quality-wise,
I really liked it. A lot of they did a really good job with a lot of the background scenery was all gorgeous.
It was very pretty.
Very gorgeous. And yeah, I just thought it was animated really well. It does that thing that a lot of animes do where like as the camera pans, the background moves in full frames, but anytime you have like a moving character or something, it's like half frames or whatever, and it has that more choppy movement, feels animated.
oh, you mean the animation frame rate, right?
Yes, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, the backgrounds
I
were
liked
way faster frame rates.
It was very pretty.
The one thing I actually have a gripe with about that, and it really only is in the beginning of the movie, as it zooms in and does like all the map stuff and everything, it's kind of doing a 3D over 2D kind of thing, and I was worried that the whole movie was going to be like that.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Because I didn't really like how they laid on the 2D stuff on top of it during that whole eagle scene, because it kind of just transitioned through that.
Mm-hmm.
But afterwards they stopped doing that, and it became like full anime, which I thought was much better. That's the only thing I really didn't like. Was just
the overlay portion.
just that initial part. Yeah.
I have one qualm with the animation. So I noticed that a lot of characters, while they're talking, do hand movements. And I felt like there was a lot of the time where they were just kind of do it. Like, they'd be like, how are you doing today? And they would just, like, they had the hand movement for...
It was gratuitous.
Yeah, it seemed like it didn't fit in, and they were kind of just doing it to have some sort of, like, a movement on the screen.
Some visual
like a
information.
visual to cue who's speaking or whatever.
So that was my own... But yeah, otherwise, I thought it looked good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very
I
cool.
loved the character models. I thought were great.
They
like
were. I thought
Helm
they were all-
Hammerhand and
It looked great. I know costuming isn't really like a thing, but like the animated costumes were all designed really well. I loved all of it.
They were all nice and intricate, which
Mhm.
I really enjoyed.
Really cool. Yeah, I can't wait to see some of the cosplay that'll come out of this.
yes, please.
yeah. Oh, I would love to see some older guys who are super buff do Helm
Do
Hammerhand.
helm? Yeah, dude.
That would be so
Yeah.
cool. The big white beard.
Yeah, dude.
If any of you out there find cool cosplays of these characters, post it in our Discord.
Yeah,
That'd be
join-
really
yeah,
cool. I want to
well-
see that.
Well, first join our Discord. Second, if you already did, just
Link
post
in
it.
the description.
Yeah, link in the description always. Yep.
Well, let's touch on a little bit what we felt about some of the changes to canon that
Yes.
happened in this movie. Because it's a film, and just like any visual, adaptation, they always make changes from the books.
Right, and this is also a very funny story about me and Joel's friendship. We weren't even sitting next to each other, like I said earlier. We had we sold out like a whole row of the theater.
Yeah, we
took
did.
the
Yeah.
entirety of row F in that
Yeah.
theater with
F was-
all
F
us and
was
our
us.
friends. It was
We
like
were-
the second row from the back. It was perfect.
Holding down row F. Yeah, and me and Joe were on one end of row F, and then Joel was on the other end. And so like after we're having the meeting after
The post movie
the post movie meeting.
talk, like right outside
And
the theater.
one of the other people that came with us, they asked like, well, how much of that would you say is canon? And I said 80%. And then I go, but let's ask Joel. And a few minutes later, we got to ask Joel. What did you say?
I said 75%.
Look at that. Look how fucking close we were on that. Like, that's pretty impressive.
Very close.
And we hadn't even spoke to each other.
No,
about
that was
the
that, I
film.
think that was the first thing we spoke about.
First thing, yeah.
That's also pretty good. I mean, is that more than you'd give like Lord of the Rings
Yes,
trilogy?
I thought it was. I thought
It
that was
might-
an extremely high percentage. Like I thought that was more accurate than the
Especially-
Lord of the Rings trilogy.
more accurate, especially for something with so little information to go on. Because, like we said, this is based on, 2 or 3 pages in the Appendix A.
Well, hold on. Doesn't that kind of make it easier to stay on canon though, because you don't have
That-
as much? That you need to get right?
Ironically, that is what the director of the movie Born of Hope said. She said because they had such less canon to go on, it was easier for them.
Right, because you're
to stay
essentially
more accurate.
expanding within empty space. You're taking something that exists and just sort of expanding on it rather than changing it. Or
Changing it totally. Yep. And yeah, and for that reason, probably has a higher accuracy than the PJ trilogy.
I would absolutely. I say it's one of the highest accuracies of any of the.
I mean, other than like the 1977 Hobbit cartoon.
the old animation, the old animated movies were pretty accurate.
Yeah, like those are the only ones I can think that are more lore accurate. Even like, yeah, this was very lore accurate, you guys.
Well, let's touch on some of the not lore accurate things. Then.
Yeah,
Like,
because there were some.
so as we know that the story kind of follows Hammerhand's daughter
Hera.
which is a canon character, right?
Yep, these are all canon characters. Yeah.
But like we don't really have much to go on with how involved she is.
I think
with
she's
anything.
just a named character,
She's-
and then it's known that her marriage is what kind of sparks.
What sparks the thing? She's fought over. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
she's fought
kind of
over.
shitty, and
She
that's
has
one of
no dialogue. I don't think her opinions are even.
no. And I think that's what's
Communicated.
awesome is they took something, and they that was like this story of all these warriors and masculine dudes fighting over shit, and they made it into this story about this princess that was
witnessing all this overly masculine shit happen around her.
right, and then going on her own journey of self-discovery and
Well, and-
self-realization.
She does a ton of badass stuff, but I mean, it makes sense that like she's Helm Hammerhand's daughter.
Of
so
course.
Right, she's
You
gonna
know,
be, she's
a
gonna be
shield
a
maiden
beast.
of Rohan, right? Yeah.
Well, there was also, let's see.
was the. I'm assuming this wasn't canon, but the Watcher in the Water, Drake eating the rabid Mumakil.
That was fucking cool.
Okay,
But
so
yeah,
this
that
is-
It was
not-
cool.
that was not canon.
This
that
is
was
a-
really cool.
This is a lore double whammy. So, yeah, the Oliphant showing up, not anywhere in Appendix A, at least. And
Well,
it-
and with that, the Wildmen wouldn't have them in their employ, would they?
Right.
the Wildmen, no. But the one thing, so with the Oliphants, at least, I didn't have a huge problem with, is because they don't. This is actually one thing I did have a problem with, is that they downplayed the relationship with Gondor in this film, and they kind of glaze over the fact that Gondor's busy right now. Gondor's being attacked by Corsairs.
Well, yeah, they kind of just diss Gondor, but like they wouldn't come to help. even
Right,
if you
yeah,
come.
and-
I kind of
no.
liked that, though, like the way that they kind of showed the perspective that we don't see very often of the people who kind of disregard Gondor as being sort of almost like, I don't want to say occupiers, kind of like colonizers.
In a way, yeah, it there was kind of a people expressing that they might be under the yoke of the Numenorians or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Which was interesting.
Perspective. We don't
Interesting
get that
perspective.
A lot.
We don't get
But
it.
that is the perspective of the Hillmen and
Oh
the
yeah.
Dunlendings and
Oh yeah, especially the Dunlendings, because like
even some of the Rohirrim.
we talk, and even some of the Rohirrim. Yeah, we talked about the Dunlendings who they were basically their land was stolen from them twice, right? The Numenorians stole it, and then the Numenorians gifted it to the Rohirrim, who then essentially resumed stealing it. You know.
I was gonna ask, did you guys like how they portrayed the Dunlendings?
Well, we on the podcast we do talk about we are kind of Dunlending sympathizers. At least I am. I don't know about you, Joel.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they did have their land stolen, like, and they are like descendants of. We learned in our men episode that they're like descendants of Halladin from ancient days of the first age, right? So like these are Edain, right?
Mm-hmm.
They are not the straight up evil men from the first age that were corrupted immediately, right? So they were at some point faithful houses. So I don't know. They did a little nuance, but I would have liked a little bit more, I think.
That's
do you-
fair. I
what
mean,
do
I
you
guess
guys think?
Wolf was very black and white, but I mean,
Wolf, yeah.
Yeah.
I get that was also because his dad got One Punch Man to
Yeah,
death.
yeah,
so
yeah.
I kind of get his level of hatred. And I liked Targ, his advisor, who
Targ was cool, and that was
he
the thing.
ignored the entire movie.
He just
The
ignored
entire
him
time, yeah.
the whole fucking time. And we were talking about, like, from a screenwriting perspective, that was, like, probably to show you what would have been the reasonable.
Yeah,
thing
he
to
was
do.
the voice of reason, and
Yeah.
to contrast how off the deep end Wolf has gone.
become. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I like that guy too. Like, one of the things he was saying is, like, toward the end, remember, he's like, no, end this war now. Like,
Yeah.
he's like, I don't care. Like,
There's
after a while,
nothing
it's like,
else
I
to
don't
fight for.
Yeah, there's
at
nothing
this
else to fight for. I don't care how this ends anymore. Like, let's just end the killing, you know? So, I kind of like that perspective of the Dunlending character. I like that.
I really liked the camp that they had around Isengard. I thought that was a pretty cool touch.
That was cool.
I don't know if they actually did that, but just having
They did occupy Isengard.
Yes, the
at
Hillmen
this-
nice,
did,
so
yeah.
that is
I think
canon.
so.
That's cool.
Yeah.
that's definitely canon.
Well, and
yeah.
that's why when we get to, should we talk about the thing at the end? The Saru? Because it kind of talks about. Well, because they at the
This
end.
is, this is before Saruman gets Isengard.
Right,
And after
so-
this conflict is when they gift it to
To Saruman, yeah.
Saruman.
So that's part of the reason why they gave it to him, is to hold it down, basically, because the Numenorians weren't garrisoning it anymore, right? So yeah, they gave it to Saruman to avoid this kind of thing from happening again.
That was at the end when we see Saruman have his little cameo. I was like, at first I was like, do we need to see this? But it was really cool to hear Christopher Lee's voice.
yeah.
And
Well, it's actually also explicitly that Freylof is the one in canon that gives him the.
oh, is it?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
absolutely part
it's
of
actually
the story.
in the same story.
It's part
in
of
the-
the
in the-
story. It is
yeah.
canon, yeah.
But and then I was like, I had to make sure it wasn't AI Christopher Lee, and
Yeah.
it was like, no,
Yeah.
it was like an archived voice
Yeah,
with like the
from-
approval of his estate.
That's
so.
good.
Yeah,
that's
it was
good of
from
them.
the original trilogy, wasn't it, or something?
I'm not
they-
sure what
they-
they lifted it from.
Just grabbed a voice clip of him, right?
Somewhere.
So
yeah.
we think.
But yeah, it was cool, and I feel like he would probably think it was cool that he was
Oh,
in
yeah.
another Lord of
yeah.
the Rings movie.
Yeah, the fact that he's in an anime.
That made
He's
me
like,
so
Yeah.
happy
of
to
all
see
the
it.
achievements in your life, Christopher Lee, check another one. You're in an anime posthumously, right?
Fucking way.
No fucking way. You did having a metal band wasn't enough for you, was it, Christopher Lee?
What?
I know we jumped kind of like right to the end with
Sure,
the,
yeah,
with the
so-
Saruman cameo, but I also like how they tried to tie everything together, like with the end as well. Like Hera goes off. We don't know what happens to her. She talks about going to meet Gandalf, which is the first time Gandalf is mentioned. Well, probably
Yeah.
the only time. So we get two of the wizards. So
Mhm.
like
True.
they're trying to tie this story into everything everybody else knows.
I thought it was nice. I
And-
liked it. It was
and-
appropriate.
Yeah, they did it in a small enough way where it didn't feel like it was overstepping.
It was
Yeah.
more appropriate than
I agree.
Rop.
Yeah, much more appropriate than Rob.
Sorry,
Well, let's
guys.
finish the things that were not canon.
Yeah.
So the last thing I can think of that was not canon was the death of Wolf. In the text, he dies at Meduseld, right?
Right. Yeah. He's so after the long winter lets up, Freyalof and his men, they come down from Dunharrow, and everyone who's occupying Edoras is basically starved half to death, and they can't even defend the place. And he kills Wolf.
Yeah.
there
So
at Meduseld.
all that stuff with Freyalof retreating to Dunharrow and having those people over in Dunharrow and stuff, that was all part of that's all canon.
Yeah.
It's the only thing that changed was that rather than coming to Helm's Deep, he went to Edoras because that just happened to be where Wolf was at the time and just killed him. Literally, wasn't it like on the throne or something? Like,
Yeah, I think he was posted up at Meduseld, probably drunk. No, yeah, and I think they had a little brawl in Meduseld, and he slew him there.
yeah. So they and then obviously in the movie it was Hera that killed him outside of Helm's Deep with that awesome fucking shield.
That little shield, yeah.
that
I love
very
that.
significant shield maiden shield.
It's not broken; it's broken in. Right? I love that.
Just
right.
like his neck.
Love that line.
That was a lot more. I mean, that's a lot more satisfying of an ending for a like anime
Yeah,
or
it
film.
is, yeah.
It would have been. Yeah, I feel like you almost have to make that change to have that.
Right, that's probably the most major change, I'd say, was having Hera kill Wolf rather than Freyalaf.
Well, and that was this other added thing that they did that I had no problem with was the whole Shield Maiden's sideline.
The whole
story.
Shield Maiden story, I
Which
really
is
liked that.
the culmination of which is when she fucking kills him with the Shield Maiden shield, right?
Well, on that note, let's jump from the things that weren't
Yeah.
canon and just jump into highlights, things we liked, because one of the first things I wanted to talk about was the Shield Maidens.
Hell yeah.
We right off the bat, early on in the movie, we meet Hera's sort of like personal servant named Olwyn, who's an older woman, and she used to be one of the old quote-unquote Shield Maidens. And they have a little conversation where we get some context, and they explain that the Shield Maidens were women of the Borderlands that took up arms in Rohan after their men had died.
Yeah.
Eventually they ended up they even got their own banner and everything, like they were a legitimate like house basically.
Yeah.
But at this point in the story, they've sort of petered out, it sounds like.
Yeah, and there's not many of them left.
That reminds me of the other day we looked up how many World War II veterans were left alive.
Oh, this is crazy.
It's not, man. There's like only 66,000 out of like
out of the 13 million or
out
whatever.
of millions. Yeah.
That's a long time ago now, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, both my grandfathers were in World War II, and they've both passed away a long time ago.
I don't know anybody that served World War II right now. Yeah. Sad. Thank you for serving in World War II, guys. Thank you for tearing fascism down. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm sorry it's coming back.
Yes. Yeah, sorry about that.
Speaking of war,
Okay,
I like
thank
that
you.
they had the like obligatory Lord of the Rings battle scene at night where they have two
course,
armies clashing at each other. Like that's always a cool thing to see.
Gotta see it.
But they had a lot more going on outside of it while it was happening, which I really liked, which was just, more for Hera to do. And her being the not canon, like I think pretty much most of the stuff that happens at the end is kind of like not canon, right?
Well, that's the thing. She's the protagonist of this film. A lot of people would think it's Helm, right? But it's not.
You would think.
You would think that, and especially from the story in Appendix A, you would think it would be about Helm, right? But no, they took his daughter, the princess of Rohan, and really made it about her, and that's what I really liked about the movie.
Yeah, taking basically this overly masculine, just real bunch of buff, angry guys fighting and causing wars, and they're taking the only named female character,
And they're making her the centerpiece of the story.
into a full character, making her the centerpiece, and basically having the audience view the whole story through her lens.
Right.
So we see all this weird over masculinity,
Like if
going on around her, and
like
how she deals with it.
Yeah, and in my opinion, if you're going to add canon and expand characters like that, that's exactly how you should do it.
That was so well
100% good example.
I think that was fantastic, while like the cut stuff where Arwen was originally supposed to come help fight at Helm's Deep was like
a little goofy.
Yeah, this is the right way to do it.
Good job, guys.
Good job.
So we got to talk about it. The centerpiece of this story, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the thing everybody remembers when you hear the name Helm Hammerhand, if you're a nerd that's read the
That's where his
appendices,
name comes from.
Right. You know the fight we're about to talk about.
Yeah, we can't talk about Helm Hammerhand without talking about the One Punch fight. So I think the way they did it in the movie was pretty great.
That was dope.
I think technically it was supposed to be just the two of them versus having people around, but nonetheless, I thought it all played out really well.
The spectacle
almost
made
was-
sense.
The spectacle made sense.
It almost made it more embarrassing for Freka that his homies were there to see him get KO'd on one punch.
And a lot of the dialogue surrounding this was ripped straight out of the books. He says the line, but men are more free outside.
Freer outdoors.
Freer outside. And then they go out and he says something like, now it's only you and I, like no weapons. You only have
Helm to deal
you
with
only have
unarmed.
Yeah, that's what it is.
That's what he says.
Oh,
There
it was so
is
great.
Common theme in this movie is people in power not listening to advisors and trusted people and doing rash.
Going over the top.
Because was it
and doing rash.
Freyalaf who was telling him like, this isn't the place, don't do it here.
Yeah,
and then
Freyalaf
Helm's
was-
like, let's go outside.
You're right. Let's go outside instead.
And I think this is
freer outside.
freer outside. This is as good a time as any to mention it, I think, you guys. I know I can speak for probably all of us when I say how much we love Cox, right? Brian Cox, that is. Oh my God, he's great in this film.
Brian
does a good
Cox does
job,
a
yeah.
pretty good job.
He's a good hammer hand.
Yeah.
I love that. I love when he turns to like, that's impossible.
I only hit him the
I
once.
only hit him the once. You
Yeah.
all saw.
Yeah, that was funny that he was like, get up, keep fighting.
Keep
and
fighting,
it was just
yeah.
like,
He's dead.
At least the other guy got in a couple of hits first. Like
He
I
did.
feel like he needed to, otherwise it is
That
like
is
straight
that
murder.
is also one other change from canon. In canon, he walks
He learns it.
outside and he immediately says that line, and he says, "You know, Helm deals with things, even so," and then he hits him without.
He says something about because they have some dialogue about the staff earlier. Remember, he's like, if Helm dislikes a crooked staff, he breaks it. Even so, or something, and then punches him. Right
Yeah,
in the
yep,
face.
yep.
Yeah.
So other little changes, but still, like I thought it made more sense to have Freka start first, beat the shit out of him a little bit.
being the loudmouth that he's being. Yeah,
It's also nice to see Freka fight because Freka's also supposed to be a big dude.
Yeah.
I feel like it's almost unjust to let him just get knocked out without doing anything.
hey man, the bigger they are, the harder they fall.
It's true.
well, in the text, does Freka die over the course of like?
So that is
days?
another. I was gonna note
He dies later
He
of
dies
his-
like later on that night. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
it says he dies later on. I don't know if it says specifically
like
how long.
but it's
But
late. It's
yeah,
not at the
it
scene.
wasn't like an immediate neck break either.
It's so much cooler though, just
It
having
is
him
way
get
cooler.
dropped
Makes
and
more
just
sense,
being
too.
done.
He's dead. Yeah.
But it really speaks to the strength of Hammerhand. Like,
Yeah.
because we see him do this a couple of times to other things.
Oh, we
the,
see it
the
quite a few
canon
times.
version almost makes it sound like he collapsed his skull a little bit and turned him into a vegetable for a while before the poor guy just died.
Yeah, he didn't pass quickly.
This was a little more like Hollywood.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I forget who said it, but someone when Freka was first coming in said something about how like when men don't have enough to do, they get, I don't know, something about how they look for ways to fuck things up, basically.
Something like a
and-
variation of idle hands.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I liked that.
Well, there's also one thing I noticed in this movie pretty much right off the bat, despite how extremely like violent it is, there's almost no blood at all.
It's true.
I think
Boo.
even the Lord of the Rings, the live action trilogy, had a little bit more blood.
I was gonna say that. I totally forgot to write this in the or add this. My one criticism, if I had one, is that I wish there was more blood.
Because one thing I love about anime is the insane gore you
Amount of
can
violence.
get
Yeah.
with anime. You know, like fucking, I don't know, Kill Bill, it's just like cut someone an arm or a leg off, and then it's just like a fountain, just so crazy,
Right.
fucking
I think
blood everywhere. Like that's
You
kind
know,
of what I want.
we're kind of more sickos. Like the Venn diagram of like sicko and Tolkien fan, we're kind of right in the fucking middle. So like, we're different.
I think
So-
it was harder too because in the PJ trilogy they get to use the orcs' black blood.
black blood.
This it would be
Right.
a lot more disturbing having them just slicing up humans.
Yeah, we don't really have any orcs in these battles.
Well, yeah,
so-
we talked about on the show before. One of our theories is why they don't do a lot of like fighting the Haradrim and stuff like that. There's not a whole lot of that, and when they do it, it's kind of off screen and not very violent. So it's because they're orcs; they're not people, right? Like you can do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah,
to
when the
orcs.
Haradrim are on screen, it's more about fighting the
The
Oliphants
and
yeah.
stuff. Yep.
And let's be real.
Environmental stuff.
If this had anime blood levels of what we think is acceptable, it would have been at least rated R. Like,
Hey, well, you know what?
I mean,
Terrifier 3 showed us that we can release it unrated, baby.
yeah, but
I don't know.
this is Lord of the Rings.
in our dreams, it
content,
would have been rated R.
some Attack on Titan level gore.
Right? Yeah, that's what I wanted.
At least when the Oliphant got eaten by the Watcher in the water,
Mhm.
like that could have sprayed blood out afterwards. It would have been
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, they
Little
should have
blood
used
fountain?
done. Yeah,
What if the
slurped it up like spaghetti and that was about it?
the elephant went in like legs last? What if the elephant like shit itself because it was, like finally died?
I don't know
halfway
if
down in
anyone
there?
would
Throw
be
a little
happy.
dookie in the,
Oh my
in the
God.
mix.
elephant shit. Would you be satisfied with that, Trevor?
Is this the director's cut that we need?
Yeah, where the
The
elephant
director's
shits
cut we need.
himself.
One thing too, I think we should mention. I liked Miranda Otto's narration.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
felt
so
like that
good.
kind of helped also tie things to the
It
original
really
trilogy.
did. That was really
and-
nice. I thought that
Well-
was a wonderful touch, and she did great.
Yeah, and I think you had. I don't think you had realized that it was supposed to be actually Eowyn.
No, I
Like
just
telling
was.
her.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
no.
It's a shield Eowyn, one of the most famous shield maidens of Rohan, telling an old story.
An old story about
Yeah, it was
Rohan.
a cool way to bring it back.
And I love how
to-
she said, "Don't look in the text because they won't tell you much about Hera."
They did that. Funny.
Because it's true.
Yeah, it's funnily enough. They did that with that's kind of the opening of what's that Czech movie we watched? The Horn of Gondor. Remember? It's like an old Gondorian historian
Like
telling
you're
the
talking
story.
about the cremator.
No, not the cremator. Oh my God, no. We'll talk about that later. No, but it kind of starts that way with like let's tell an old story of this old kingdom and this badass you've never heard of kind of thing. Similar.
Very cool.
Yeah, cool way to tell a story.
So another thing we wanted to talk about is just how quickly the movie ramps up. It ramps up in the first like 30 to 40 minutes. Like we get to one of the first major battles like outside and around Edoras. Like
Yeah.
And time-wise,
ramps up really quick.
it doesn't feel like a 2 hour and 15-minute movie.
Right,
And
and I
it
know-
like flowed together really well. I was thoroughly distracted.
No.
I know that's a long run time, so it'd be a lot to ask for. But I would have almost appreciated a little bit more build up before the first battle, just get a little bit more comfortable with our characters. Like I feel like we didn't get to see a whole lot of Freyalof before he kind of disappeared.
It's true.
Yeah, we need a series.
Could have been longer.
we need a
Next,
series.
next we need a series.
Yeah, I do feel like we maybe missed a little of like the like we didn't see as much of her brothers and stuff either. But
Yeah.
But I mean, when it's already like 2 hours and 15 minutes, what are you gonna do?
well, and I
Yeah,
think they did the characters that matter really are Helm, Hera, like Wolf, and I feel like
Yep.
they gave those characters decent.
Good screen time, good
Yeah.
like character development. You know,
Hera and Helm especially, I
Mhm.
think.
yeah,
Yeah.
loved it. So another significant thing that happens is Hera finds like this old circlet crown and an old wedding dress. This is not part of the story. This is something they added. I wouldn't say it clashes with canon at all. It's just an addition.
No additional lore.
And some old like hag that lives in the deep.
The old
in-
hag?
The old hag.
I don't
That's
know
a
what to call
mean-
her.
that's
What's
a
that
mean
character?
description.
She's nice. She's kind of
nice.
cool.
I mean,
She's ominous as fuck. What are you
she
talking
steals
about?
That,
I
she
think
steals
she's
that
chill.
like loot to burn it at one point, but I mean,
she like comes
she's
around. but
pragmatic.
She's pretty ominous at first.
She's pretty ominous at first, but she says like it belonged to some old, like Princess of Rohan or something who mysteriously died the night before her wedding. And
Right.
there was sort of like some mystery around that, but it was cool, and it comes back later, you know, which makes a moment later in the movie a little more significant when Hera puts it on.
Yeah, I like the moment that it's set up.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she definitely comes across the whole time as not ever wanting to marry anybody.
Oh yeah,
In,
she
like, any of the
says as-
scenes-
she explicitly says as much.
Yeah, so it was a little extra impactful for her to put that dress on
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
towards the end and then go out and confront Wolf.
Yeah,
in
and she
person.
calls herself not the bride of, but like the betrothed.
Betrothed, I think. is the word.
Betrothed to
Doesn't-
death.
Does he
Yeah.
ask her like who her husband is
Oh,
or
shit.
something?
Who does he
Yeah.
devoted to? I think
Yeah.
is,
Yeah,
And she just says death.
which was so fucking
So fucking cool.
And
so
that
cool.
that's another thing that I think looks cooler in an anime is like she had the wedding dress and like
It
the
was frayed
sleeves
and, like-
and I feel like that's something that's more impactful in animation than
like a flowing
yeah,
dress.
yeah, but yeah.
And considering that most characters in, I guess, animated anything tend to wear one single outfit for the whole thing,
Mm-hmm. True.
that like gives it even more impact, like you're saying, because all of a sudden she's totally different,
Mm-hmm. And it looked gnarly.
and it looked gnarly.
Mm-hmm.
She did a whole battle scene.
A whole battle
like
scene with it.
she took off what was probably like leather, some kind of protective warm clothing, and puts on a dress in the
Right.
freezing cold to have
It's
a
a
fight.
statement. She's making
it's
a
a
statement.
hell of a statement.
Well, that's also more towards the end. So I want to touch on other stuff before we get to the end, like the whole at night when Helm goes out,
That
and
was
starts
sick.
slaughtering people.
That's so cool.
That was so cool. I
Yeah.
loved that. Like the horn was so spooky, and then the way that men were like reacting and running away, like, oh,
Like there's a monster.
it's a monster, it's a wraith.
Well, and the
It was so
people
good.
inside didn't even know that he was really doing it either. They thought he
Mhm.
was a ghost too, because he just up and disappeared.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like literally tearing bodies apart. Like it was so gnarly.
I like-
that's what I wanted to see.
I think there's a part where Hera's like, you can't defeat the army one by one or something. He's kind of like,
I
I,
can
don't know.
try.
I was like,
I could try.
maybe
yeah.
he can though. Like,
Yeah,
You're like,
exactly. I mean,
maybe?
he
Yeah.
actually made a significant dent.
he was
Yeah.
terrifying them.
Well, they did a good job with all the fight scenes, in
Mhm.
particular of him doing that stuff. Like, especially when he when she finds the secret passage outside and
Yeah.
then stumbles upon the orcs.
I loved the orcs because so in this movie they took the little tidbit from the story where it said that some of the Dunlending men were so afraid of him they thought Helm was a wraith, and they even thought that he was eating the bodies.
That's true.
And they took that and they did it sort of like what happens in real life where fairy tales go, like somebody was eating the bodies, but it wasn't Helm. In this story, they were like, oh, it was some orcs that were nearby. They threw that in. I thought that fit really well.
That's yeah.
And then that also allowed them to do this little scene with the orcs where they throw in a ode to the Lord of the Rings because the orcs are looking for rings, you know.
They're looking for rings.
And they're also the orcs' names are Shank and Rot, and Billy Boyd voices Shank, and Dominic Monaghan voices Rot. So
Yeah.
Familiar voices.
I totally did not
I didn't catch
recognize
it.
that
I
at
heard a
all.
little bit of one of them and I was like, that sounds familiar, but it sounded too different to actually be.
Yeah, I couldn't
Either of them.
quite figure it out
But
either.
it caught my ear initially.
But that leads into a whole scene where the orcs try attacking Hera.
Yeah.
And then Hammerhand comes out like...
Well, 2 orcs and then a snow troll, right? Or an ice
Yeah,
troll.
there's the snow troll.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, that-
That was
huge.
cool watching Helm fight that troll, bare hands, just.
That first punch he lands, like, busts the horn, one of the horns off
yeah,
his
he
head.
does, yeah. Oh, it was so badass.
Like
yeah,
this-
I was excited. I was visibly excited at that part. I think I clapped or did some kind of.
Woo!
One of the
Hoot
most
and a holler.
anime moments of the whole thing. And even then, like, still toned down compared to what anime tends to
Yeah,
do. But
It-
perfectly badass.
It made me kind of really want to see Helm when as like a young man.
Like
Just
his
because he's like an
comeuppance, like-
old, he's like past his prime here, right?
I don't
Like,
know, or he might be
What would you
always in
say?
his prime.
what would you think?
I was just
don't know.
envisioning how much more badass he would be
Yeah.
when he was younger, even.
When he was even more spry. Yeah, so that was all really cool. And then now we get more or less towards the end when she puts on the dress. She fights Wolf. And I also thought it was really cool when she fought Wolf. Ultimately, she didn't really defeat him with a weapon. She defeated him. Well, I don't know. Would you consider a shield a weapon?
It's a defensive.
Anything's a weapon, depending on how you
Well,
use it.
that's a case in point. She uses it to kill him. It was really cool because it was also not just any shield. It was the old, busted up shield that her shield maid servant had used.
The like broken in one. Like,
The broken
damn.
in
Yeah,
one.
the
Yeah.
broken in one.
Yeah, there's a lot of nice little like callbacks and stuff like that.
I thought that was really nice. I
Yeah.
liked that.
Cool ending. I mean, yeah, it was. I mean, it's more it's more unique than Freyloff shows up and kills a starving.
Right. Yeah, it's
Well,
more
starving
unique than
wolf.
like the siege sort of peters out and then he goes back and then gets killed by Freyalof. Like,
Hold on. So we mentioned that the eagles are in the beginning, but were the eagles in the end?
That's right. I forgot about the other cool thing that happened where Hera climbs a goddamn mountain to beg the help of the eagles, and she gives the eagles Helm's armor to fly it over to Freyalof. And then Freyalof shows up wearing the armor, so even though they know Helm's already dead, all of a sudden it looks like he's up there, and they really do think he's a wraith.
They freak out.
Oh yeah, because Helm
Freak the fuck out.
because we didn't mention it, but Helm dies earlier. Like
We glazed over Helm's death. That's
Yeah.
right. We didn't talk about that yet. That was cool too.
Very cool.
That was another great anime moment. Him just freezing to death,
Yeah.
fighting like no one was able to take him down. He
That's
just-
Totally
why,
canon,
like
totally
I said,
canon.
when I heard it was going to be an anime, I was like, "Yup."
he puts a beat down right outside the gates. Like that was good.
Yeah.
That was good.
So much badassery he's had on that bridge right there,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like
Going back to
Aragorn
the
and Gimli.
Aragorn and Gimli in the films, but then Aragorn and Eomer in the movie,
It's
or in the book,
Eomer in the
rather.
books, yeah.
Yeah.
you had a complaint about the Eagles though.
I always have this fucking complaint, and
it
it's
that they
Peter
didn't-
Jackson. No, hold on. Let me. It's
Yeah,
Peter
you guys
Jackson's
probably
goddamn
know it.
fault. It's Peter Jackson's goddamn fault. Whoever started this tradition
Should I not have gotten
of-
started
of
on the
not
Eagles?
having eagles speak when they are a sentient race that speak all the fucking time. Trevor, I'm not even looking at you right now, but I know what you're thinking. What is the one piece of adaptation of lore that we've seen that got the eagles right?
You said One Piece.
It's not One Piece.
Well, it had to be that game that I played that one time.
Of course.
War in the North.
War in the North. Yeah. If anybody's looking for somebody who did the eagles right, where they speak, War in the North. But yeah, I didn't like that. Again, I don't. But at this point, it's been such a trope that I'm just like, of course they don't talk in here either. You know, whatever.
Besides that, they were really dope.
No, still
They were
cool
really
stuff.
cool.
Yeah,
Fucking
still
giant
fucking cool. Yeah.
One maybe minor complaint about the story is the end of the movie is very similar to like the end of the Two Towers with the Helm's Deep, down to like the them showing up on the same hill
On the
and
same
then
hill, riding down the hill,
charging down.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I almost would have preferred if they had just like came up from behind rather than down that same hill. But I understand they were kind of looking for that dramatic moment. Like, is that Helm? Up there. But it is very similar.
but I mean, it's like I love the Helm's Deep battle and stuff so much. It's like I still was enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I was telling you too. Like in the lore, a lot of the times, huge battles do go shitty, and then your homie shows up. Like, I mean, how many times did that happen? The Field of Celebrans, right? The first time Rohan and Gondor are friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Helm's Deep.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the Battle of Pelennor Fields, right? Always it's like your homie shows up at the last second and helps you. So, like, I don't see that as being, like, cliche or anything. I think that's what happens a lot of times in epic battles, right?
It's kind of one of the things that at least gives it that extra layer of suspense you wouldn't otherwise have, and
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and so far has been done a lot. So
Oh my
it's kind
gosh,
of-
we're gonna lose.
it's
Oh
kinda
wait.
common, yeah.
Oh, wait.
Well, that's about everything I think I had to comment on. I mean, I also just want to say again, the Saruman thing was so cool. I just loved hearing Christopher Lee's voice again, and just knowing it was him. It was actually him.
And how knowing that it was done respectfully with his family and
Yeah.
that I
Yep.
was.
It wasn't anything over the top. It was just a quick line. He says, "Anything you need, my lord," or something like that.
yeah, something simple like that. Yeah,
It sucks that in today's age we have to be like, wait, we have to make sure they didn't use like
Yeah.
AI or I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
did they steal this artist's voice? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So in coming to the end here, can we do like maybe what was everybody's like? Maybe pick one favorite thing, like one thing you really really liked that they did. And I guess I'll start since I'm bringing this up. I know we mentioned the costumes before, but I think the costumes of all the characters is one of my number one things. Like the costumes and the characters' design in general. I think they all looked really cool and unique enough. And I love that Hera had red hair. Like that seems a little.
Seems
you wouldn't-
appropriate.
You wouldn't expect that, I guess, from Helm Hammer.
Well, I suppose you're right because a lot of the Rohirrim usually are golden of
Blondes
head,
usually.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I liked all the art direction and character designs. I thought that was great.
Yeah, I think I really liked Helm and Hera's character design. I think Helm might have been my favorite overall thing. Every scene he's in, especially with Brian Cox, it was just
Yeah.
and he had like just so many badass moments. So, especially as someone who wasn't really familiar with the story, it was cool.
Yeah, I think I gave you a brief rundown of it, like on the way to the theater or some shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, you didn't know much about it. But yeah, is that all you?
Yeah, I think that Helm and Brian Cox would be my favorite.
Your favorite aspects? That was one of mine. Honestly, I'm a huge Brian Cox fan. Honestly, everything that Brian Cox does, he elevates it to a whole other level. I mean, look at that. Like, what was that movie? That horror film we just watched with him in it? Jane Doe, Autopsy of Jane Doe.
Yeah.
Not a fantastic film, but like he elevated that shit. He's such a great actor. But that is not my favorite thing.
Okay.
My favorite thing is that is the screenwriting and the fact that they built up a story around an unknown female character.
Damn you, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, dude. See, me and Joel are the same. And I think that's what we need more of in the legendary or in the legendarium today. Like, especially because like I don't know if you guys know this, but women love Lord of the Rings, right? Like girls
Just so happens.
Just so happens. Like, give them somebody to fucking dress up for Halloween. You know, like what the fuck, dude? Like,
Good role model characters.
right? And Hera was great.
Absolutely.
Great, badass, fully realized female character. Yeah. That's the screenwriters did that, and that was what I would say is my favorite aspect.
Yeah, god damn you. I was gonna
Sorry,
say
dude.
I really liked that they took a just a simple named character and they expanded her into tastefully expanded her
The right
character into a very full, fleshed out, realized character. And I really thought it was well done. And I really liked it. And then I guess I'm going to throw something else out, so I'm not just saying the same thing as you.
Sure.
I really liked the score. I thought the score was really great. Anytime I watch like a movie, the score is one of the main things that really makes or breaks my immersion. And I thought it was great. Within like, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes, I didn't even realize that it was an anime. Well, I mean, I realized that, but like it didn't feel weird anymore. Like I was perfectly comfortable with the concept.
Totally natural.
Totally natural. Within like 10 minutes, it was great.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I had a fucking ear-to-ear smile on my face. I thought this movie was a delight.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I had a really great time. Not everybody apparently likes it, but, you know, to each their own, I guess.
There are critics.
This is we're doing like a 40 minutes on why we like it.
Yeah,
so.
we assumed we'd only talk for like 20 or 30 minutes, and here we are.
And here we friggin' are.
Definitely closer to an hour at this point.
Definitely closer to an hour, yep.
But yeah, I mean, I think it deserves it. We might do more content about it in the future, honestly, like once the Blu-ray comes out and we can really analyze the shit out of it, right? I think that'd be fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think we'll definitely take a deeper dive, do a full episode.
But yeah, I think is that pretty much it from us?
That's all I've got.
Yeah, I think so.
That's all I got. Well, I'm Danny J.
I'm Joel N.
I'm Trevor D.
I'm Joe Vasky.
And together, we are...
Keep on Tolkien.
Yeah.